Namaste, and welcome back to Grow with the J.A.N family. I'm Anjali.
Oh, my turn?
Yeah.
All right. Today we're going to be reacting to a Sadhguru video, which is about the Hyderabad case that just happened. And I had done a video a couple days after the news was broke about it, and then when we found out kind of the results that happened just recently. So this is kind of Sadhguru talking about it, and
Yes.
We've always enjoyed listening to Sadhguru, and his the way he speaks about stuff is very I don't know, he's like the
Calming.
wise old man. I really enjoy listening to his theories behind it, because I feel like he doesn't point fingers at people.
No.
And he's not saying, you know, you have to be Hindu, you have to be a Buddha, you have to be this, you have to be that, you can't be one, you can't be the other. He's saying, no, like, this is what you believe, then that's what you believe, and this is what you believe, then that's what you believe. So I really do enjoy his speeches, and we just wanted to see what Sadhguru had to say on this case, because this was a very heart-wrenching to hear about it, though we did feel glad that some swift action was taken, though we don't want to condone that should be the always, but we do think, you know, that the courts need to have a faster system. If you have enough proof, if you have them on tape, you have them admit to it, it shouldn't be 6 years. It shouldn't be a long time. It should be, you know, you need a couple weeks to figure it out. You need, you know, to question a few more people. Great, do it, done deal.
Yeah.
And for stuff like this, when the perpetrators were that gruesome, acting like terrorists to this young girl, these are the cases there should be no, like, don't make it a long process. Find out who did it. If you're positive, done deal. And they need to have consequences bad like this.
Yeah.
So let's listen to Sadhguru, what he has to talk about right now.
Sadhguru, this morning, those accused in the recent Hyderabad rape and murder case, they were shot dead by the police in an encounter. As a woman, I am quite disturbed with this series of events. But at the same time, I feel justice is served. Sadhguru, do you also feel that they got what they deserved?
Well, what happened to that young woman, unfortunately, is not an isolated case. And this is not just happening in this country.
Unfortunately.
It's happening all over the world. Just on the basis of gender, that a human being is brutalized in this way is happening everywhere. It was at a much lower scale in this country simply because till this generation, largely women were protected, they were in, indoors, in their homes. There was not much room for these things. It happened with people that they know. This kind of brutalization was not there because normally women were in protected spaces. This is the first generation stepping out, and now this is on the rise. One terrible event after another, one more brutal than the other. It's happening. Well, if you were a close friend or a family of this young woman, definitely you would want to do this. Just let me tell you how it is. So I'm talking about a few years ago, 2-3 years ago, I was in California, and something similar happened in California. And we were discussing this, and different people saying different things, because I was with a group of people who are against capital punishment. They don't believe in capital punishment. I also don't want to hang anybody. But at the same time, when certain things happen, not just as crime, somebody has taken absolute pleasure in tormenting, demoralizing, and making a human being absolutely wretched. They just didn't do it, they took enormous pleasure in doing it. So this discussion was going on and this particular person who is an activist against capital punishment, it got very heated. Then I asked, see, suppose, because he had a 14, 15-year-old daughter and the case that we were discussing was somewhere near that kind of age group. I said, suppose something like this happened to your daughter, would you still say what you're saying so vehemently? What would you do? Then he sat back. Then he said, I would gouge this guy's eyeballs out with my own hands. I would cut his genitals. I would do this, that, everything, and I would want him to die, taking 3 days at least to die. I said, see?
Yeah.
So that kind of emotion is there in people.
Yeah.
Now the killing by the police, if you go this way, you will not have a civilized nation left. If the police and the judiciary start acting upon families' emotion or people's emotions, then there will be no rule of law at all. In the process of building a civilized nation or a society, rule of law is not always justice. Rule of law is not justice. Rule of law prevents a whole lot of things that could happen. Well, right now you must understand this, the rule of law is like this. Suppose you have an automobile, you have a motorcycle, and this guy comes and rides it away, and he hides it in his house. So you gather a group of 5 people, go there, thrash him and take your motorcycle and come back. Now you will go to jail. This is the rule of law. Because you're supposed to go and complain to the police. So this looks so totally unjust, but if we give up the rule of law, then jungle will come into the town, okay? So whether the police shoot or the crowd lynched him, what is the big difference? Actually, crowd is standing in front of the police station and demanding, hand those guys over to us, we will take care of them. They would have lynched them. Well, in the parliament, people are saying, let's lynch them. Parliament. Well, this is the emotion when you see the wretched thing that they have done. No question about it, not that we have any sympathies for them, but
None.
if you give up the rule of law and start doing these things, how do you know? How do you know? This is the most unpopular thing to say, you will get me into trouble, but let me say it. How do you know? Suppose I am the police person and today there's a huge pressure in the town that this has happened. What do? The first 4 guys who are sitting here, pick them up and say, these are the guys. And if I wait for 2 days, these guys are going to speak. So best thing is shoot them or hang them in the prison and say they committed suicide. That's it, case closed, my job is done, I get a medal. I'm saying there are many loopholes to this kind of things.
Yeah.
So once you go into that region, then there is no control. Right now, the nation's emotion is such that the right thing has been done to these 4 people. Well, I don't want to go into the details of it could be anything, but at the same time, in the cover of darkness, if these 4 people had escaped, then what would the nation say? Then every one of us would be saying, these police are so incompetent, they are no good for anything, they are probably cahoots with them, maybe the policeman also raped that girl, all kinds of things would come out. Journalism would go loose on everything. So there are many aspects to it, it's a terribly sensitive matter. But should we move towards going for quick justice? If a crime happens, tomorrow morning shoot them or hang them. Well, if you bring back the kangaroo courts, then you will be taking a backward step in our efforts to civilize this world. Don't think the world is civilized, okay? You have to constantly, in every generation, move them towards civilization, constantly. Otherwise, they will go backwards with these emotions. When something that's precious to me has been lost, then I will say, let's break the law and do this, because it hurts me so much. So, it's a very unfortunate scene. It is not for you or me to take sides, which is right, which is wrong. This is the unfortunate reality, but I would say largely this is a consequence of inordinately slow judicial process. That everybody knows if you go to the court, it is going to take 10 years.
Shouldn't be like that though.
No.
If my daughter is raped, do I want to wait for 10 years? Definitely not. Right now, the other parents of the another brutal rape and murder of Nirbhaya in Delhi, those parents are saying, this is a good thing that happened. I want the same thing to happen to the perpetrators who did the same thing to my daughter. Why? After 7 years, they're still not hung.
7 years.
The sentence has been given, but appeal after appeal, they will go to a higher court and a higher court. His whole life he will spend in the
feeding
prison,
him food.
and we are paying
Yeah.
taxes for him. Yes, we are. When somebody as level-headed, when someone who is as balanced and level-headed as Anand Mahindra says, I will volunteer to be a hangman, because they're saying there's no hangman. Because everybody said no capital punishment, so hangmen have been fired, no hangmen. So even if you give a sentence, nobody to pull the rope. When somebody like Anand Mahindra, who is a very level-headed and astute businessman, when he says, I will volunteer, you must understand that justice is too bloody slow, too slow, inhumanly slow. If we don't do something about this will become the norm. It's picked up momentum. Country's emotion is with the police, which is not a good thing. Long term, this is not a good thing for the country.
I agree with Sadhguru a lot. Like, he definitely has the right way to say it. Like, we do feel, a little bit like the woman said, like, I do feel better that something happened to those 4 guys, but it does need to go through the judicial system. At the same time, it shouldn't take 7 years.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a faster system for stuff like this that was horrific. And like he said, like, not only, it wasn't like they just did it, they were mean and they were taking pleasure out of torturing and killing this young girl. And I know there was just another case recently too, that came up. And these things do happen everywhere. We hear about this crap here in the US. We hear about it. It's happening all over the world. You shouldn't feel like it's just in India. It's not. But we do feel like we're hearing about it a little bit more, It's just sad. And it's sad that the court system hasn't figured out a better way to get these people through the system a little bit faster and have severe consequences for cases when these incidents, they're considered terrorist. They are like a terror to the community, a terror to society. Stuff like this should never happen.
No.
Ever.
Also, we're paying for them and they're getting food. They're basically living life in prison because they did this.
Yep. They get to eat food and breathe the air, and they've done a horrific thing to this young girl that shouldn't last for years.
No.
Shouldn't have. When you have proof, it shouldn't go on for years. Do we want the police to do this extrajudicial killings? No. We don't want them to take it into their own hands. Like Sadhguru said, sometimes you get involved in the emotions of stuff and things happen.
Yeah.
So, if that was what happened, but they had proof, they admitted to it. But no, the police shouldn't go and, load up their gun every time something like this happens.
No.
And somebody says you have to, save. But it shouldn't last 7 years either. There needs to be
Not
a
at
faster system. There needs to be a better way to do this. It can't go on forever. But you need to put some fear into people that think that this crap is okay to do, because it's not. You are terrorizing half of society in feeling like they can't come out of their house. And if you think like young children, girls, are not going to be able to feel comfortable walking down the street, whether it's light or dark, and especially not at night. India has such a great culture and such a vibrant, so many people, women in politics, women prime ministers, women in power, like you have such a women empowerment, and then this stuff happens. And I know it happens everywhere. We say we have women empowerment here, and yet we can't vote the president as a woman. There's always, that double-sided standard to it. But there needs to be a safer way. Women need to protect themselves when they're out on the streets and not think that everything is peaceful world, even though we would love it to be here at the J.A.N family, a peaceful world. But you need to be aware of your surroundings. You need to make sure you take something with you. You need to make sure people know where you are, and that you can have somebody backup plan. Like if something happens, there's some big guy that's going to come save you. Your uncle, your dad, your brother, somebody. Don't be naive, but also the court systems need, they did kind of make an example of these guys. This shouldn't be an everyday thing, but
not at all.
We do feel a little bit happy that there was some justice done, and hopefully this family can feel some peace and love for their daughter that they've lost. But it shouldn't drag on forever. So the courts really need to find a better system to make things better, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and don't waste our tax dollars, everybody's tax dollars, feeding them chapatis when this poor girl, her family has lost her forever. So, anyways, love Sadhguru when he talks.
Yes.
And he does make a great case in this. And so, I hope you guys enjoyed it. We will do more Sadhguru in the future.
And don't forget to subscribe.
And join our wonderful family.
And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.